This episode of the Operatory podcast is brought to you by Opera VR Digital Nitrous, the immersive patient anxiety melting experience proven to be as effective as nitrous oxide with no drugs. True drug-free sedation with Opera VR. Go to digitalnitrous.com. Welcome to the Operatory podcast, the podcast about burying the dinosaurs in dentistry, moving past outdated technology and procedures to find a better way. With me, as always, providing the very important patient perspective, my man, David Pryor. How are you doing, sir?
Good, Brian. How are you today?
Well, I'm doing great. We have a fantastic guest today, Allison Lacoursiere from the beautiful island of Bermuda.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So you practice on a tiny island, very different than probably most of our audience, with some very specific challenges that you've been able to overcome. So I'd love just to hear from your perspective, practicing in the environment that you do, what specific challenges you have, and then kind of what you're doing to overcome them.
Yeah. So being on an island, we do have our fair share of unique challenges. And we like to kind of say that we've been able to turn them into opportunities to get things right the first time. So one of the challenges that we have is there's not a lot of local certified anything. So if we want a certified dental assistant, a hygienist, we generally have to hire them from overseas. And so that's a big process. And very often we don't even meet the people until they land on the island and we have them in our practice hired. So.
Wow. Yeah. I'd like to complain about the staffing issues recruiting in Minneapolis. And I never would have thought about that. That's because the team is so crucial. And I love the fact that you said, because I firmly believe that every challenge is an opportunity, because if most people, when they see something that's challenging, bury their head in the sand, it's an opportunity for you to do it in a different way and opens up an opportunity to make things better. So do you typically recruit from overseas, or do you look to train people who are on the island, or a combination of both?
A combination of both. We traditionally have recruited from overseas, and now that we've developed very good systems and a really good training program in our practice, now we look for people that just have exceptional attitudes and are passionate and empathetic, and we can train them to be exceptional professionals, because we figure like that's the most important thing, is that they have that care factor and that positive attitude. The rest can fall into place with good systems.
Yeah, I think that's what we look for 100% is the possibility of leadership in somebody. If it's somebody that may want to be in a leadership position, we'll hire them all day long, no matter where they come from or what their background is. And so, yeah, you're right. I think I agree. Attitude is 100% the key. But man, that's got to be it's because you have a very busy practice. How many dentists do you work with?
We have 2 dentists and 4 hygienists.
Wow. And how many assistants do you have?
We have 4 assistants.
Wow. So that's a good sized team for small island practice. And so that's very interesting you think that recruiting and training is one of your biggest challenges?
Yeah, I would say traditionally it has been. In the last couple of years, one of our missions is really just to keep our team and make them our family, basically. So we have a very, very tight-knit team in our practice, and we've all been there for 4+ to 30 years. So we try to keep our team. We try to make sure that everybody feels really appreciated, really happy in their job, and that's kind of stopped the problem of having to find new staff all the time.
So, Allison, this is Dave. So you and I had spoken at ADOM when we first got to meet you, and I know that one of your key components of your success at that practice was developing systems that created efficiencies. And when we were talking, that's what you were looking for, was additional resources to create efficiencies. So to go back to what you were saying about recruiting and bringing in people with a positive attitude, would you say that the putting in the right infrastructure is the other half? So you as long as you get people with a good attitude, then you've got the foundation to be able to support that good attitude with good systems.
Absolutely. And it's really a lot of times setting the expectation when you're interviewing somebody. It's not to say this is what your job is going to be. It's to say this is who we are here. And do you fit into who we are as a team and our beliefs and our vision? And by setting that high standard, even during the interview process, it kind of weeds out people that potentially wouldn't fit. And it also allows people that may not even quite be at that attitude level to rise to the occasion.
Yeah, I believe that one of the key things that you should do for a practice is having core values that articulated that aren't aspirational, that is truly who you are. And like you said, if you can articulate what those are in detail to people and let them know that, we live, die, hire, fire by these. So if this isn't you, that's great. Go somewhere else, but this is who we are. I think you do have to be sort of exclusive on the hiring process, which, that's probably why if you're on a tiny island in the middle of the ocean, it's way more challenging than if you live where there's a whole bunch of dental assisting and hygiene schools and dental schools, right?
Yeah, if we lose a team member, it could be, especially like a trained dental assistant or a hygienist, it could be up to 3 to 6 months to replace them. And so it's pretty devastating to have that time with being short-staffed, and there's no temp agencies, there's nobody that really can fill in. And so it's really important that we have a very solid team.
Wow, that's huge. Well, now, what other aspects, because you've really created an exceptional practice, what other criteria do you define as an exceptional practice?
I think that we kind of have like 4 key ways that we succeed, in my opinion. And one of the major ones is it's relationship before task with our patients and with our team. And on this island, we're known as the go-to office to come to if you're scared. Like, there's no advertising on this island. They used to have a rule strictly saying that you can't advertise any dentistry. And so 98% of our patients come from internal referrals. And so you have to have a good reputation. You have to be the office that patients talk about and they tell their friends and they tell their family. And so for us, it's so important that we're hyper aware of our patients' needs and fears, and also our team. Like, we make sure that relationship comes before everything else.
Yeah, the saying goes, I think it was Richard Branson that said, if you take care of your team, they'll take care of your patients. Although he didn't use patients, he said customers. But which is very true. And I think that rings true, I think, across any practice, no matter where you are. Even though you do have some, I think, specific challenges to being on a small island, anything you do to optimize your practice would be true anywhere. Do you agree?
Absolutely.
There's no place on the planet where there's an overabundance of good quality people doing an effective job, right?
Absolutely. And we really developed our why. Our why in our practice is we want to change people's lives. And then our how is by providing an exceptional working environment and providing exceptional dentistry. And so when the whole team knows the why and the patients can feel the why, then you're going to get more internal referrals and you're going to keep a full practice.
Well, lots of good things we've talked about already, like core values and articulating that to help sort of attract the right people and repel the wrong people to your team. What other, to our dentists, our audience, which is primarily dentists, any tips that you would have for them, to the average general dentist, that you've learned from practicing in a sort of specifically challenging environment that you would want to pass along to them?
Yeah, one of the big things I think in the dental environment is that it can be quite stressful. It's natural for a dental office to feel the stress and the pressure of the busyness of the 1,000 tasks you have to do, the quick pacedness of it. And it's important, I think, to remember to have fun with your patients and with your team. In our practice, we're very professional, but we also love to have fun. And sometimes that can be at the bottom of our to-do list, let's go to work and have fun today. It's not really the first thing we think about, but when you make that a priority, and and you make it fun for your team and for your patients feel more connected to you, and it just makes everybody's life a lot better.
Yeah, and like Brian and I have talked about in the past is exceeding patients' expectations, right? And so we just had a podcast a little while ago where Brian was asking me, what are your expectations from a dental practice? And it was really to my surprise that one of the things that I did not put on the list was good dental care. And, because I just assumed that.
Yeah, it's just an assumption.
It was just something that came to my mind. But as you're talking about creating an environment for a patient where the patients come in and expect to enjoy the conversation, enjoy being around the staff, I think that, I don't know what your competition is like down there. Being in Minnesota as we are, it would be the easiest thing in the world to hire people out of Minnesota to come to Bermuda.
Yeah.
Shut up, Dave. But we also have probably a 3 to 6 months before we hire somebody because we're very selective of who we bring on the team, right?
Yeah.
We do have the benefit of having temp agencies and quickly who can like fill staffing needs very fast. But the I think what you were talking about before too, having fun, because we do a lot of stuff at our office that's one of our core values, and I think it's not only because let's face it, I wouldn't want to work in a place that isn't fun myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who would? And patients get that when they walk in the door. They can sense, they get a sense very quickly. We as tribal creatures know when we walk into a tribe that sucks and it's going to be anxiety driven or whatever, or if it's people that are having fun. And so even though I think it just makes obviously going to work better and retaining people and having exceptional people better. But I feel like it's a strong patient motivator too. If your team is not having fun, who's going to want to seek care there? Do you agree?
Absolutely. And it's a great way to build relationships with people. Like, everybody wants an experience now. Like, it's not just coming in for your basic dental care. Like, they want to come in for an experience, and that experience at the very least needs to be positive and if not exceptional. And when you're able to have fun and make people laugh, especially in a dental office, that's when they want to come back and they want to tell their friends and they actually enjoy themselves. And so I think it's a huge factor that can sometimes get overlooked with the to-do list that we have working in a dental practice.
Well, you can't be anxious and having fun at the same time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you very much for being on the podcast. Really appreciate talking to you, and thanks for doing all that you're doing.
Thanks,
No
Allison.
problem. Thank you guys so much.
Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I also want to remind you to rate and review us wherever you're listening to this podcast. And if you have suggestions or comments, please visit theoperatory.com and drop us a line. Again, I'm Dr. Brian Laskin, host of The Operatory. Thanks for listening. I look forward to speaking with you next week.